We are renting our car from Tamra Rent-A-Car. So we got that little shuttle bus thing over there just now from the airport. And then have our car. We are driving on the opposite side of the road here, so yeah, a little bit different, but I'm sure we will be okay. It's another 40-minute drive to the hotel now, so here we go. As Michael and I had rented a car, we had a lot more options to choose from when it came to accommodation. Having just travelled through Japan for a couple weeks and staying in bigger cities, we decided against staying in Jeju City to avoid the hustle and bustle. But I can see how this would be the easiest option if you didn't have a car. We opted to stay in the south part of the island, which was much more peaceful in comparison, and I personally thought it was way more scenic as well. For dinner, we went to Jeju Black Pork as I really wanted to try black pork after hearing so much about it. It's considered special on the island because they're native to Jeju only. The restaurant has a little garden part to it which gave off a bit of a greenhouse vibe, and it was such a spacious restaurant, and although it looks pretty empty when we first arrived, this place actually became so busy when we were finishing dinner. This restaurant has a real family run vibe and feels super homey. We ended up ordering the black pork and kimchi jjigae, and the auntie who owned the restaurant also gave us an egg dish which was super yummy. There was also such a huge selection of fresh side dishes, and my favourite was definitely the bean sprouts. Highly recommend coming to this place if you're planning on visiting Jeju. Day one, officially, well, our first official whole day in Jeju Island. We are going to Innisfree today, and then a couple of museums like the Tea Museum, the Arte Museum. So there's Osulloc and then Arte. So yeah, how are you finding driving?
Getting there.
Yeah, it's a bit different, but it's easier than I expected it to be, I guess. At least the signs are similar in shape, so.
Thank goodness for the GPS in the car.
Yeah.
We would be.
Yeah, off we go. Planning our itinerary for Jeju Island was a little bit difficult as the car routes on Google Maps was disabled, so it was a little difficult to gauge exactly how far attractions were from one another. So for example, when we went to Innisfree, we realised that the Osulloc Tea Museum was right next door. This store is their flagship store and is honestly so beautiful. There's a wide range of products you can sample in a beautiful location overlooking tea fields. During the time we were there, they were running a soap making workshop, so you basically buy a DIY kit and sit in the store to do it. It's not a workshop run by staff, but they will direct you to screens which will give you a step-by-step. We bought the green tea and volcanic clay kits, and to make the soap you mix the powders in with an uncured soap base, which you then shape and stamp however you want. This then needs to cure for 7 days before you can actually use the soap. Directly next door to the store is Innisfree's cafe, the Jeju House Cafe. Similar to the store, there were glass walls everywhere, which gives you quite the 360 view of the gardens and tea fields on their property. The store has quite a number of products like jams, biscuits and cakes if you want to take away some, as well as a bunch of other savoury items which you can have in store. We were super lucky to get a seat directly to the corner of the shop, meaning we got a seat overlooking the tea gardens directly, and we ended up ordering the brunch picnic set, which had a range of items, a sea lemonade and also a tangerine rose iced tea. Heading over to the Osulloc Tea Museum, we were actually expecting it to be a museum, but it ended up being more of a gift shop. What we ended up realising over our trip was that the term museum is used quite loosely to describe an attraction, so definitely something to keep in mind when you're planning your itinerary. In saying that though, the Tea Museum did such a range, and I had no idea that Korea was such a hub for green tea. The green tea matcha latte is so worth buying from here, as well as their matcha wafer biscuits. We also bought a bunch of teas from here as well, from camellia to tangerine, and we're slowly drinking our way through them now and still haven't found one we don't like. We're now on our way to the Arte Museum, which is meant to be some sort of immersive art museum, basically. So yeah, hopefully that's not too hectic. Our first impression of the Arte Museum at first was that it was a bit of an IG or Instagram trap due to the sheer amount of people we saw just posing and taking photos. But upon entering the garden exhibition, this completely changed for us. The key was definitely just taking the time to pause and intentionally pay attention to the artworks being displayed. We ended up spending about half an hour just walking through that exhibit, watching the projections. There was also a little area where, look, it was probably for kids mostly, but you could colour in an animal, scan it and have it projected on the screen. So we ended up projecting a photo of Rosie on a panda bear and thought it was so funny. When buying our tickets online prior to our trip, we also opted to buy the tea bar option. Michael and I ordered a hot tangerine chamomile tea, which was quite sweet but super delicious, and the tables that we sat at were also interactive. There was a projection which would identify where your cup was, and it would display a bloom of flowers around your drink. Driving around Jeju Island was probably one of the best decisions that we made, and although as a personal preference I would usually prefer to drive a bigger car, our little Kia Morning ended up being such a great asset as there are some laneways which are super tight here. Driving also allowed us to visit way more attractions and gave us more flexibility to stop by random scenic places as we drove by. The GPS would often offer us scenic options, which we opted for sometimes, and we felt that driving really gave us the ease to see more of the island. We had an early ramyeon dinner at Noraba as they close at 5 p.m. It was a cute little seafood ramyeon joint which overlooked the beach. Super cute, highly recommend coming here if you are visiting Jeju. There's both indoor and outdoor seating options, including a rooftop part too. Unfortunately, the rooftop was full when we arrived, so we opted to sit at the back instead, which was still quite lovely. The restaurant was clean and had a real beachy shack vibe. The seafood was also super fresh, like it was still moving in the pot when we got the pot. And it was so tasty. There were so many mussels and manila crabs. The abalone was still alive when we got them, and we were given instructions to cover them in the soup to cook them. So then we had them after finishing the ramen, and I can honestly say that it was perfectly cooked by the end. Given that we had such an early dinner, we went out searching for dessert and came across Billemos, which was near our hotel. What I really loved about this cafe was that it was just so homey. We ended up ordering the Basque cheesecake, which the cafe owner recommended as being his bestseller, a custard and cream crepe cake, a Biscoff Eisenhower, and also a green tangerine fizzy drink. The next day, Michael and I visited Hueree Natural Park, and although we weren't visiting during spring, there were still some flowers in bloom, so it's definitely a very Instagrammable spot if you're into that. We enjoyed having a relaxing stroll around the park, and there was also a hydrangea greenhouse which was filled with so many blooms, and it was honestly so beautiful. There was also an animal feeding experience, so I can imagine this will be great for a family day out, I guess if you have kids. There's like black pigs, goats, horses that you can feed with carrots as well, so super cute. There was also a little like black pig show, but honestly I think this was just feeding time for them. They basically run up and down these ramps, and then the feeder just like dumps all these like grains in the trough, and yeah. Off to go see Wonang Falls now, which looks like it's really high, so that's great. I don't know how far it is up. So yeah, I'm sure we'll be fine. Let's go, let's go, let's go. So we actually don't know if 340 meters is elevation or distance, but yeah. Great staircase. All the stairs we gotta go up. For lunch we went to Gyejeolsig. I'm absolutely butchering it, I just know it, but that's the place to Google. And this restaurant is a place that both Mike and I still think about until this day. It was such a warm, sunny day, and the restaurant is situated overlooking a black sand beach. I can just imagine that this place would absolutely just slap during winter when it's cold, because they do these beautiful stews and rice sets which are honestly just so warming. We got a seat by the window overlooking the beach, and the restaurant itself is super cozy and clean. Everything we ordered was super fresh and beautifully presented. We ordered the pollock rice set and also a beef stew rice set, and both were honestly so good. I highly recommend you coming here if you're visiting Jeju. After lunch we had a bit of time in our day, so we decided to make our way to Cheonjiyeon Waterfall, where there's like also a bridge and stuff as well. We didn't have that much time there, so it was a bit rushed, but the views here are definitely so beautiful if you can plan this place into your itinerary. Michael and I then headed over to Yongsodam studio for a Jeju pony sewing workshop which I found on Airbnb. The thought here was to make a pony that we could put up on our Christmas tree once we got home. It was a cute little workshop, but she definitely forgot about the workshop and then tried to say that we were there on the wrong day before realizing that we weren't, so it was definitely a bit awkward at the start while she was setting up, but apart from that it was a pretty good workshop which helped us slow down. Sue puts together these sewing kits which you basically sew the borders, flip the ponies inside out, stuff them, and then sew them back up to make sure the filling doesn't fall out. Sue was not only very knowledgeable about sewing, she also knew a lot about the island, so we definitely walked away with some great tips. Today is Michael's birthday!
What is it?
We are going to go see a big crater today. It's like a UNESCO heritage site. And then see like the women divers, which is a really popular thing. Or like, yeah, a big thing in Jeju. So yeah, 2-hour drive. Fingers crossed everything goes well. We made a halfway point stop at the Sangumburi, which is a volcanic crater or orum. And it's basically the crater to see all craters on the island. So definitely worth going if you're into scenery. For lunch we went to a beachside restaurant again that specializes in abalone. Service was really quick and efficient here, and they were super busy when we got here, so yeah. We ordered butter grilled abalone, a abalone congee or rice porridge, and also a abalone stone rice pot. I definitely recommend getting the stone rice pot, but I'd probably not recommend the abalone rice porridge. I felt like the rice was a bit undercooked because it still felt a bit hard. Jeju is known for their tangerines, so we got some tangerine juice before continuing our drive over to the UNESCO heritage site. There is so much that you can do here, but you have to be prepared with the right shoes. So sneakers and socks are definitely the go if you want to explore around here. There's a bunch of stairs, so if you want to summit the crater, that's definitely what you want to be wearing. There is a free trail and a paid one, which was going for 5,000 won per adult to summit, but you can still see the women divers performance on the free trail, so we went to the one at 2 p.m. If you're planning to see that though, you'll definitely want to try and go a bit earlier to secure yourself a spot. And we were really lucky because we managed to get a good spot on the rocks right in front of the divers. After their performance, they'll go right into the ocean and dive for some seafood, and it really doesn't get fresher than this at all. Yeah, cool. Michael and I did the trail to summit the crater. It's about a 50-minute round trip for the summit, but it's mostly just stairs. So do keep that in mind if you're planning to go up the crater. The views are definitely super worth it though, as exhausting as it was. It was so beautiful. So yeah, I definitely recommend that you do it. We summited!
It took us around 25 minutes roughly.
Yay! Thank you. I have no idea. I've never had this before. We then visited Lunafall, which is regarded as an outdoor theme park. I will call it more of an outdoor light show trail though, as it's literally in a forest and you walk around on the trail. We weren't entirely sure of what to expect once we saw the guy in the angel outfit, but Google Translate definitely was super helpful when it came to converting everything said into English. This place ended up really exceeding our expectations once we could understand it, and it was honestly such a wholesome experience. It's built on the concept that everyone wishes on the moon, and so it's a story about how the moon got so heavy from everyone's wishes that it fell into Jeju Island along with the wishes. And you basically go through the trail, which then covers things that people wish for, like money, love and peace. This place was giving off Animal Crossing vibes, and it was honestly such a vibe. I was so about it. If I can give you a tip, if you want to visit this place, you can buy a wish ball from the market before you enter the trail, and the ball also allows you to interact with some of the exhibits. So for example, in the peace section, you could trigger audio using the wish bowl, and there was this one that had an audio where a dad was wishing that his son was eating healthy, staying safe, and saying that he loved him. And honestly, it was just so wholesome and sweet. There's a huge moon projection at the end where you're encouraged to make one last wish. So I'd highly recommend coming here for like a little date night or a little like family outing. Honestly, so cute. On our last full day in Jeju, we had breakfast at a bakery called Saebil. The cafe is inside a decommissioned hotel which has been retrofitted with a stripped back industrial vibe. We loved this place so much that we ended up coming back again the next day before we headed to the airport. The pastries and breads look absolutely phenomenal, and they also tasted really good too. We ordered the condensed milk croissant, a blueberry croissant, and also a tangerine tart. And for drinks, we ordered a signature latte, which turned out to be a dirty matcha latte, and also a cappuccino. Not only does this cafe serve up some really decent pastries and coffee, this place is also super picturesque, and there's pink umbrellas that you can borrow for your pictures or to use as sunshade as well. We then headed over to the Dongmun street markets. It's much busier during the night for food options, but there are definitely still some vendors who are open to the day crowd. The market seems to predominantly serve locals during the day, with a dry and wet market where you can buy fresh produce and seafood too. All these tangerine things. There are a bunch of food vendors in the heart of the market, so if you're a little unsure of what to go for, I'd definitely head there first to have a look, as there's a huge variety of things. We then went to Cafe Yongsodam for a tea break, which was a quaint little cafe located across from a suspension bridge and pagoda that we wanted to check out. It's quite close to the airport, so if you are driving, it might just be worth just heading over here before you go over to your hotel. The suspension bridge is rope based, so it definitely does shake a bit when you're walking on it. So if that's not your thing, maybe the bridge is not for you. There's a lovely little coastal walk which you can go on around this area as well, and if you're lucky enough you might also spot the water lake dragon. We then headed over to the Jeju Folklore and Natural Museum. If you enjoy history and looking at old artifacts, this is definitely a place to go to. I particularly loved seeing all the ceramics that have popped up in their history because I find that for functional pieces, the shape says a lot about their use but also their creativity from back in the day. One of the things I really wanted to do in South Korea was to eat marinated raw crabs. So on our final night we went to a restaurant located near the Dongmun street markets. This was the best place out of our whole entire trip in South Korea, so I'd highly recommend coming here. You can order a local Jeju crab, which is the crabs at the top of the plate, and those were super meaty and full of head butter. It was so delicious. We were really lucky because we were actually the last customers to order the Jeju crabs for the day, and they were definitely the better of the two. Just look at how much meat there is. We then took a walk around the Dongmun street markets again. Although we had been there earlier in the day, it was definitely so much busier at night and way more food options as well. So if you're not into marinated crabs, this might be the better option for food at night. I really wasn't kidding when I said that Saebil was so good that we had to return the morning of the day that we were flying out. So we went there before we headed over to the airport.